Crime, Wine, and Chaos contains adult language and graphic content. Listener discretion is advised.
All that glitters is not gold, Chaos Kids. I'm Amber.
It's so fucking true. And I'm Naomi. And this is Crime, Wine, and so much chaos.
It is.
Hi, sister.
Hi, sister. Okay.
Hey, sister.
So,
Sister.
Exactly. I've been binging Grey's Anatomy while I'm on the treadmill.
Same. Well, I mean, I binge it all the time, not just while I'm on the treadmill. So I'm way ahead of you now, just for the record.
Oh, okay. So our intro reminds me of a 30-second dance party. Got to dance it out.
You got to dance it out.
You got to dance it out sometimes.
Yeah. That's good. You know what? That's a good tip.
Sure.
In general.
That's right.
Absolutely. What's going on, sis?
Fuck, absolutely nothing.
Absolutely nothing.
Exactly. I got nothing. You know, one of these days I'm going to just have like the biggest news ever. I don't know what it's going to be.
Don't tempt fate because that
No,
sounds...
positive news.
Oh, okay.
Because everyone must think I have the most boring life ever. I have a very predictable life.
You know what?
Organized.
Let me say something, okay? That is a very, very privileged place to live on this planet, in this world.
Yeah.
To have a predictable life.
Yeah.
Lots of people in this world do not have the luxury of predictability in their lives.
That's true. That is very true.
You know?
I do know. Yep. Absolutely.
So, you know what? Let's celebrate predictability because wouldn't we all benefit from a little bit of that in this life?
Preach. Yeah, we would.
Oh, hey, sister, you said you sent me a new typey review on the Apple Podcast.
I did.
App. Do you want to read that for the kids? Am I reading
You're
that?
reading that. Yeah.
I'm reading that? Oh, we're doing this again. Okay.
I almost said I don't like reading aloud, but that's literally what we're doing. Except my 12-page story, but I can't do 3-sentence review. I'm uncomfortable. You do it.
Okay. Oh, this is from Peyton Amari with 5 stars, and it's titled "I Love It Here," which I think is a direct response to how many times I've said I hate it here. Oh. I love it already. Literally 1,000,000 out of 10! ! Love the relatability and comedy while being in the true crime space. Love. Lots of O's. Thank you, Peyton. Wow. That is wonderful.
Yeah, we love Peyton.
We do. We do. And we love a nice review with the typies. That's really cool.
Yeah.
So
do some more. Be like Peyton.
Be like Peyton. Sister, what are you drinking?
Thank you for asking. I'm drinking Broad and Pattison Chardonnay. A crisp chili Chardonnay.
That's great. I love that for you. You know, I'm drinking water because, I don't drink. And, there's probably some new Kid Club members here that don't know that I'm in recovery. And actually, we didn't talk about this the last time I recorded, and this is going to come out like much later, but 4 days ago, as of this recording, I celebrated 13 years clean.
Damn.
Actually.
13. Gosh, those 3 years went by fast because I feel like your 10-year celebration just
was like last week.
Yes. Or in my mind, it was last year. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Congratulations. Yeah. Good for you.
Thank you, sister. Thank you. And Chaos Kids may not know this, but Amber is instrumental in the reason why I am clean today.
Oh, so that's very kind of you.
No, that's not kind. That is true.
Okay.
What was kind was what you did for me.
Oh, thank you. I'll do it again. I won't ever need to, but I'd do it again.
No. Well, I'm going to knock on some wood. There's no telling, there's no telling. But as of today,
yeah,
we're good. We're good.
Awesome.
Sister, how about a crime?
I would love a crime.
I knew you would. So I put one together just for you because I know how much you like it. So we're going to do a story about Sonia Herok-Stone.
Okay.
That's a hyphenated last name.
Oh, okay.
She was actually born Sonia Herok in May 27th, 1951 in Quebec, Canada. When she was a teenager living in Montreal, she met David Foreman, and the two began dating. Sonia was gorgeous. She had super long hair all the way down to her hips, and she was very popular with everybody. She was also very smart. David described her as special, like she was special. After high school, David headed to California in 1972, and Sonia soon followed. They were going to have the life, a new adventure, a new everything. And Sonia loved California, but she wanted to get married and start a family. And the two were 20 years old, and David wasn't ready for that.
Right.
So they stopped dating, but they remained really, really good friends. David would later say they went from being boyfriend and girlfriend to being brother and sister, like in the true sense.
That's, I have never experienced that before. Good for them. I think that sounds odd. No judgment, but good for them.
People do it.
It's weird.
People do it.
Yeah. I suppose.
Look, my ex-in-laws were always like buddies, even after the whole time that they were split. They never even got married. Sebastian's grandparents, they never got married. They split when Sebastian's dad was real young, and they were always really tight.
I mean, it does happen. I get that. I just, All right.
Expand your horizons, sister. So
I can't think of a single, you know what? Maybe it's my picker. Cause I was
going to say,
I can't think of anybody that I want as my buddy. I'm sorry. No.
Yeah. You and me both.
Good.
So a few months after this, Sonia would meet Michael Stone. They very quickly moved in together and then got married. They were really happy, building a life together, and both were very excited when Sonia got pregnant and gave birth to their daughter, Sasha, in 1977.
Sonia and Sasha. That's cute.
And David was Sasha's godfather.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Michael and Sonia's marriage did fall under strain after that, when Michael lost his job and Sonia was struggling with postpartum depression. Sonia and little Sasha would end up moving out and into a place of their own in Carmel by the Sea.
Okay.
Carmel, as it's known, is a California seaside town on the Monterey Peninsula, about 130 miles south of San Francisco. It has a thriving art community, lots of surfing, and a quaint little downtown area. One of the famous California Catholic missions is in Carmel.
Okay. Sounds nice.
It's very cute. Sonia was doing well for herself and Sasha, and she was fast becoming a rising star with the Levi's clothing company. She was a salesperson for the iconic American jeans manufacturer. Sonia was well known in the Carmel community, and she bombed around town in her convertible Mercedes.
Oh, Sonia's a whole vibe.
Yeah, she's a whole vibe. Sonia made a friend in Caroline McBride, who described Sonia as kind. She was a good friend, good listener, warm and fun, and their daughters went to the same Montessori school. While Sonia is trying to build a life she can love in Carmel, she's dealing with the messy breakup with Michael. And at the same time, someone's been calling her house and hanging up. And she also tells Caroline that she feels like she's being watched.
I just got chills. You're doing a stalker one because you know that it petrifies me more than anything. Is that what?
No.
Oh, okay.
I actually didn't know that part until I started digging in on the story.
Okay.
One night, while Caroline is over at Sonia's place hanging out, they hear the sound of very loud footsteps outside Sonia's house. So they called the police to report the incident, and when the police finally arrived, they found nothing.
Right.
Sorry, I have to...
No, it's okay. And what year is this now?
We're in 1981.
Okay, so we're way pre-security cam, cell phone. This is all
of that. Yes.
Okay.
This is the dark ages, guys. All she's got is a giant, probably rotary dial phone.
I was just going to say that. Yeah.
So it's October 15th, 1981. Exactly. This is a Thursday, exactly 1 month after this incident. Caroline leaves the Montessori school after dropping her daughter off where both the girls were at school for the day. And she swings by Sonia's place. Sonia's Mercedes is parked outside, but when Caroline knocks on the door, no one answers.
Oh, no.
She opens the front door and she will never forget what she saw when she entered Sonia's house. Sonia is lying on the floor. She has clearly been attacked and sexually assaulted violently.
Oh, God.
Caroline leans down to see if she could sense any breathing from Sonia, and she could tell that Sonia wasn't breathing. Caroline just ran from the house.
Mm-hmm.
Like, she jumps in her car. She's screaming out the window as she's driving through the neighborhood. She was just afraid that whoever had done that to Sonia might still be in the house.
Yeah, that's got to be the spookiest feeling to be in there. Oh, God.
Right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I don't blame her.
Yeah, like, what if they're still in there?
Yeah, that's so scary.
So she gets about a few houses down, and Caroline sees someone outside washing their car, and she yells at them to call 911.
Mm-hmm.
Police responded immediately. The detective on the case, Detective Dorman, described it as, quote, a really shocking scene.
God.
Sonia was lying on her back right at the front door, almost completely nude, with something around her neck that Dorman soon realized was her own pantyhose.
Ugh.
He also realized as he surveyed the scene and her body that meant the killer had kneeled over her with his face inches away from her and used her pantyhose to strangle her. She fought all the way to the end. There were clear signs of the struggle, from her ripped clothes to the damage to her body. Her ring finger was broken, the nail also torn, and there was skin and blood under that torn nail.
Okay.
When police questioned Caroline, she tells them that Sonia and Michael are separated and Sonia is contemplating divorce. And Caroline tells police that there are all kinds of reasons that Michael would want to kill Sonia.
Mm-hmm.
Michael quickly becomes the prime suspect. Police call Michael into the station and tell him straight up he's a suspect.
Yeah.
They find him to be uncooperative right out the gate, and Dorman recalls Michael throwing out red flags all over the place. But red flags aren't hard evidence, so he proceeds to canvass Sonia's neighborhood and starts with the house directly across the street from her. There's a boat in the front yard. The guy working on the boat is muscle-bound and burly, wearing a shirt that stretches tight over his muscular back and arms. He was wearing a face mask. Dorman asks him to remove his mask, which he does, and his right cheek has a deep red scratch that starts under his eye, goes down his whole cheek, and fades out into his neck.
Well, that's not a cute look. Also, quick question. Where was her daughter when she was attacked?
She was at school.
Oh, she was at school. Okay, that's good.
The man's name is Michael Glazebrook, a 24-year-old who had recently moved into the neighborhood. He's a tradesman. People who knew Glazebrook described him as a bulldog, the kind of man who always got his way.
Ooh.
When Dorman asked him if he could give any information on Sonia's death, Glazebrook said that he had been working on his boat until 10 a.m. that morning, but neither saw nor heard anything out of the ordinary. He said he left to go see his dad around 10 and didn't come home until early evening. He said his wife, Robin, was a teacher and leaves for work every day around 7:30 a.m.
Okay.
Further, he claims the scratch on his face was from an incident in his garage while cutting plexiglass, that the plexiglass splintered and flew into his face, and that he had gone to the hospital the night before and been there overnight. Dorman questioned this claim. Why was he hospitalized overnight for a minor scratch?
Right.
Glazebrook then changed his story and said that it had happened around 10 a.m. that very morning and he'd gone to the hospital for it that day. He added that his mom was a surgical nurse at the hospital. Dorman did note that Glazebrook did have a hospital ID bracelet around his wrist.
That's a weird thing to get wrong. Either you stayed the night there or you didn't. Also, what's with the mask?
I don't know. Maybe because he was working on the boat, maybe he was doing like sanding or something.
Oh, okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Dorman asked to see the plexiglass, and Glazebrook took him into the garage. But Dorman filed in his report that there was no blood to be found on the plexiglass or the work table. And through the whole interaction, Glazebrook was stammering, stuttering, hemming and hawing, and trying to come up with his answers throughout the interview. Like, he was not sure-footed on this.
Mm-hmm.
This interaction, in combination with Michael Stone having a solid alibi, pushes Michael Glazebrook to the top of the suspect list. Sonia's family weren't ready to let her estranged husband off the hook. They still firmly believed he was likely Sonia's killer, but the police did not. Police want to bring Glazebrook in for questioning, but are worried about spooking him. So they go digging and find out Glazebrook has a couple of warrants out for traffic violations, and they arrest him to get him into the station. And they take a mugshot, face scratch and all.
Mm-hmm.
Dorman sits down with Glazebrook and starts questioning him about Sonia's murder. Over the course of this interview, Glazebrook changes his story repeatedly.
Oh, no.
At some point, he says he actually was in Sonia's house that morning that she was killed, but of course he wasn't the one who killed her.
No. Okay. God, this dumbass.
He would then go on to claim that he and Sonia were having an affair.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Mm-hmm. He takes a lie detector test and fails, which, Chaos Kids know how we feel about lie detector tests.
They're bullshit. Yeah.
It's like having a seance. Actually, you know what? I take that back. I feel bad. Having a seance is more legitimate than a lie detector test.
Right.
The blood and tissue found under Sonia's torn fingernail was tested against Glazebrook's blood type, the only testing that was available to police in 1981. And the blood types are the same. And the way that works out, I didn't write this down, but the way that works out is basically like 30% of the population has that blood type.
Right.
That's what it tells them.
Yeah, it doesn't really do much.
So this doesn't rule Glazebrook out, but it's also not conclusive evidence.
Mm-hmm.
Then one of Glazebrook's girlfriends comes forward to tell police that he told her that he was in Sonia's home the day of the murder, but that he didn't kill her.
Okay.
This at least verified for the police that he was in Sonia's home, because this was like corroborating testimony that he had been there, because he had also said that he had been there at one point, right?
Right.
So police are feeling pretty confident they found their guy.
Mm-hmm.
In July of 1982, nearly 10 months after Sonia's murder, Michael Glazebrook is charged with first-degree murder. But before trial begins, a judge rules that none of the interrogation that Dorman had conducted on Glazebrook could be admitted as evidence because he'd been picked up on a traffic warrant, but was questioned about a murder investigation. His statements were tossed out due to a violation of his rights.
Interesting.
The DA moves forward with prosecution anyway, and in November 1983, the murder trial begins. Then, under oath, Glazebrook's parents testified that he never had a scratch on his face the day of his murder, and the prosecution couldn't prove otherwise to the jury because the booking people at the station who took his mugshot the day he was arrested and interrogated found that the camera had failed to operate and the picture didn't exist.
Oh my gosh. I thought you were going to say that the mugshot was part of the, the whole interrogation of the murder and that was thrown out too, but that's even worse. A malfunctioning camera.
Right?
Oh my.
The thing is that even in 1981, we'd pretty much got photographic technology down.
Yeah, that one's been around for a while.
A long time. Mm-hmm. That was 100-year-old technology at that point.
Right.
Like cameras, we're pretty solid on that.
Yeah.
So.
But that's shady that his parents lied under oath.
Totally shady. Also, back to the camera. We're talking about this isn't even the digital age yet. This isn't there wasn't a memory card in it or, you know what I mean?
Right. There's no excuse for this.
No, it's literally just you put film in it and then you click the button and open the shutter. Literally.
Yeah.
It's all mechanical. There's no reason for that camera not to work.
Right.
Except for operator error.
Totally. I mean, yeah, you've got two steps. Is there film and did you push a button? And if you're missing one of those, I don't think you're qualified for this job.
Right?
Yeah.
I just say.
I agree.
So when Glazebrook's girlfriend took the stand, she testified that the cops had been leaning on her to give them information that confirmed Glazebrook's guilt, and she just told them what they wanted to hear. Mm-hmm. He never told her that he'd been at Sonia's house the day of the murder. She just told him that because she was mad at him.
No. Oh, my God.
After about a 2-week trial, the jury goes in for deliberations, but they cannot reach a unanimous decision and the jury is hung. And in fact, only 3 jurors want to vote guilty. The other 9 are voting for acquittal. Mm-hmm. And in December 1983, the judge declares a mistrial.
Fuck.
After Glazebrook walks free, many in Carmel and Sonia's family turn their attention back to poor ex-husband Michael with a suspicious gaze. Mm-hmm. Stories circulated that he was the real killer.
The prosecution didn't refile after the hung jury?
No.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
The case was then essentially abandoned. Mm-hmm. Sasha, Sonia's daughter, remembers being pulled out of preschool when she was 4 years old and 2 officers telling her that her mom had been killed.
Oh.
When she got older, her aunt gave her a couple of pieces of yellow lined paper with the names of people on it that had investigated her mom's murder. One of those names was Detective Dorman. When she turned 18 in 1996, she stormed into his office and asked him why he had not yet reopened her mom's case and solved it.
Yeah.
She said, this guy, Michael Glazebrook, is the guy, so why is he still free? Mm-hmm. By this time, Glazebrook was divorced and a father to an 11-year-old son. Sasha actually looked him up in the phone book and was shocked to find him there, to see that he was still out there walking free. She even called his number, although she never actually spoke to him.
And this whole time, Sasha is, I'm assuming, being raised by her dad, who everyone is saying is possibly the
I'm assuming
killer?
So, yes. I mean, I would assume so.
Oh, gosh.
So the case continues to languish. It gets dusted off again in 2009 with a new detective looking into it as a cold case. At that point, there had been huge advances in DNA, but the department doesn't have the person power or the budget to fully investigate the murder.
Right.
Sasha is frustrated and trying to make peace with the fact that her mother's murderer has still not been brought to justice.
Yeah.
And then in July 2020, 39 years after Sonia's murder, the Monterey County District Attorney creates a new cold case task force to work exclusively on qualified cold cases as well as pursue advanced DNA testing. And a new detective is put in charge of reviewing Sonia's case. He realizes immediately that this case is absolutely solvable. Mm-hmm. One of his first steps was to reach out to Dorman, who remembered the case in detail. It was one of the cases that haunted him even after he retired. But this new detective had access to something that Dorman didn't ever have: advanced DNA technology and funds to utilize it.
Yeah.
The problem this new detective encountered wasn't with the testing, though. The problem was the blood collected from Glazebrook back in 1981 to determine if his blood type matched the blood type underneath Sonia's fingernail had been destroyed. At some point over the decades, the blood vial broke and there was nothing left to use for testing.
Was it the photographer that did that? Was it the same person working at this department? The fuck?
Keystone fucking cops.
Wow.
At this point, Glazebrook is in his 60s, living a good life in his parents' house, just 20 minutes from the murder scene. He's a little league umpire and a coach and works as a bus driver for a local school. He is a father and a grandfather.
Yikes. Another coach.
Right? Mm-hmm. This new detective is now tasked with gathering a new DNA sample from the suspected killer. Police parked near his residence and pulled him over one day. The detective approaches the driver's side window and informs Glazebrook who he is and what he is there for. He says, quote, "I picked up the case of Sonia Stone, the cold case homicide that we've been working on forever. So I have a search warrant for your DNA."
Damn, just right there on the side of the road?
That's right.
All right.
Glazebrook asks if he can contact his lawyer, and the detective tells him, no, there's no right to talk to an attorney first. It's what the search warrant is for.
Okay.
He is taken to the squad car and subjected to a cheek swab. While he's still in the squad car, the detective casually asks Glazebrook who he thinks police should be looking into for this murder. And Glazebrook says, Just from talking to my lawyer and him talking to family members, I know the daughter seemed to think her dad did it. I was told during that whole process, and this is kind of what's allowed me to move on from it, is they know who did it, but they couldn't prosecute him because they already had me set up in the system.
Okay.
The detective asks Glazebrook, did you even know her at all? And Glazebrook responds, no, never even met her. I happened to live across the street and that was it. But if you guys want to sit down and talk, give me a holler.
Okay.
After testing Glazebrook's DNA against the sample found under Sonia's nail, the lab found that the chances of the DNA not belonging to Michael Glazebrook was 1 in 46 quadrillion.
Oh.
Which is like a million billion. A quadrillion is a million billion.
That sounds like a made up number.
Right?
$1 million billion. That's something a little kid would say.
46 million billions.
Mm-hmm.
That's so many zeros.
That's so many zeros.
But it turns out that the fingernail sample they had kept all those decades was stored in wax paper inside a manila envelope that had been covered in the blood of the broken vial of Glazebrook's blood. And the prosecution had real concerns that at trial, the defense would use this fact to cast doubt on the viability of this sample.
That photographer needs to retire. Who the hell would put the suspects and the mixed together in wax paper?
Well, so it's
in
like
an envelope?
They had like a little wax paper envelope that they had put together to like hold the fingernails that had been put into this giant manila envelope and sealed. And then that was like the blood vials they took from Glazebrook were just in the same box as that manila envelope. And so when those vials like shattered and the blood went everywhere, the blood went all over this manila folder.
No shit.
They determined that it didn't actually get beyond the wax paper. It didn't actually contaminate the nails, but they knew that the defense would still use it to cast doubt on this DNA.
Yeah.
So the prosecution pushed the detective to find another sample of the killer's DNA on Sonia's body. So they go looking for the evidence collected in the rape kit.
Stop it. Are you going to tell me that was lost?
It's nowhere to be found.
Okay.
It's been lost.
Of course it has.
The detective doesn't let it go. And he keeps searching for this evidence, and he's calling labs all across the state, determined that one of them still has some evidence on this case in their possession. Eventually, he finds a lab that had tucked away and stored perfectly swabs taken from Sonia's breasts, preserved in microscope slides.
Oh,
this provided the DNA testing lab with another DNA sample to test that was also a perfect match with Glazebrook's profile.
Oh, wow. This is a roller coaster. I was really starting to think he was innocent.
Sasha gets a call one night at 10 p.m. from the cold case detective, and she is on speaker with the entire sheriff's department cold case team, and they tell her they were able to make the arrest of Michael Glazebrook and that they were all wearing Levi jeans in honor of her mom.
That's sweet.
You guys, I was crying when I got to the end of the story. Michael Glazebrook, now 67 years old, is once again charged with the first-degree murder of Sonia Herok-Stone. He pleads not guilty and is granted bail. His trial begins in January of 2023. Sasha is joined at the courthouse by her dad and her uncle, Sonia's brother, who had given up on ever seeing the day someone was arrested for murdering his sister. By this time, 41 years had passed since Sonia's murder.
God.
The trial lasted 8 days. The defense did, as predicted, contest the DNA evidence, presented testimony from Glazebrook's dad, reiterating that he had not had a scratch on his face the day after the murder, and even indicated that Glazebrook had been with him the day of the murder.
Mm-hmm.
But the defense team didn't really present much else of a case, and Glazebrook didn't take the stand. And after just 1 day of deliberating, the jury came back with a verdict of guilty of first-degree murder. And a few months later, Michael Glazebrook was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole.
Wow.
Sasha lives in Vancouver, BC now, and is an activist for victims' rights. Her mom's ashes are in the ocean, so Sasha goes to the beach, sits down, and has a little chat when she wants to be with her mom and remember her and keep her alive.
Oh.
And that is the murder of Sonia Herok-Stone.
Wow. Thank God they didn't retry him.
Right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it sucks that it took 40 years, but wow. God, that was a
Right?
roller coaster. And I was like, oh, she's going to tell me it was David. 'Cause I'm like, why did she randomly throw in this person that doesn't appear anywhere else in the story?
You know what? I love that you're on the edge of your seat and that I love that. I love that for you.
Thank you. Wowzas, sister.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that was terrible. So
I know it's awful. You know how I feel about these ones where they get away with it for 40 years.
Yes.
And they're like getting caught now with like DNA that's finally caught up with the.
I know.
Because this guy was a dad and a grandpa. He was driving bus for a school. He was coaching fucking Little League. It's like, you guys, what are we doing?
I know. And when somebody who's 67 years old gets life, I'm like, what is that really? Like 5 years?
Like 5 years, 10 years?
Yeah.
I mean, depending. Yeah.
Yeah. And
like how long can you live even naturally, like in prison?
Yeah. And the whole like out on bail. I'm like, no, he's been out on bail for 40 years.
40 years.
Jamming around town, doing
right
in his school bus. No. God.
Right?
That sucks. But thank God they didn't.
And again, are they looking into the 40 years between that crime and them picking him up to see what else he might be connected to?
Right.
We are talking about a brutal fucking rape and murder.
No shit.
And he just did that one time and that was it?
Right.
It never happened again?
And I'm assuming he maintained his innocence, right? So
of course.
We have no idea, like, why the fuck did he even know her? Was it just random? Did he know her daily route? Was he watching her?
Was he the one stalking her? Was he right?
What the fuck?
No idea.
God.
No idea.
Ugh.
Because like it's even crazier to think that she had a stalker and the guy across the street murders her and they're not the same person.
No kidding.
Right?
God. That's awful. Thanks for that.
You're so welcome. How about some chaos?
I've got some chaos.
Okay. I'm ready for it. I'm ready for it.
I'm going to tell you about Stephen Glass.
Okay.
He was born in 1972. His dad was a doctor and his mom a nurse. He had a younger brother, Michael, and they lived in the affluent community of Highland Park in Illinois.
Okay.
Stephen does well in high school. He's on the student council and has good grades, but he's real dorky. Real dorky. He was a late bloomer with a high-pitched voice, and he was very different from his brother, Michael. Michael also did really well academically, but Michael was popular and attractive, and the girls liked him.
Kind of athletic, maybe even a little bit.
Yeah, that's rough.
The opposite brothers, you know?
That's,
yeah.
Oh, God.
Yeah. And it also, like, kind of sucks when it's, like, the younger brother, because he's already the baby at home, too, right?
Yes. And when you're close enough in age to be at the same school, too.
Right, at the same time. God. You're both in high school at the same time. Yeah. And your little brother is a fucking heartthrob, and you're, like, this total dork. Yeah.
Yeah, you're just like, God, get out of my space.
Get out of my life.
No, you're everywhere with your heartthrobness. Get out of here.
Yeah, no shit.
Mm-hmm. Michael was even voted most likely to succeed, which we've talked about this before. The voting.
Okay, so he's like the all-around kid. The voting.
The voting on children of who's the best and publishing
the children
it.
Vote on each other.
It's disgusting.
But yeah, I know. I know.
Most attractive. God, I mean, what are we doing? So Stephen's parents are encouraging him to become a doctor. So he applies to the pre-med program at Penn State and he's accepted. Mm-hmm. But Stephen only went to med school because of the pressure from his parents.
It wasn't his passion.
No, he wasn't at all interested.
Okay. I don't want anyone to be a doctor who's not fucking interested. You know what I'm saying? Oh. I'm already like, I know those visits. You've been to that doctor. Right?
Oh, yeah. I've been to that doctor. Oh, my God. No shit, right?
Yes, exactly. No shit.
Don't do it. It's terrible.
Yes.
What Stephen wanted to do was to be a journalist. So
I mean, okay.
Mm-hmm. His grades in the pre-med program are starting to slip pretty early on, so he changes his major to anthropology. And he starts writing for the school paper and eventually becomes executive editor.
Okay.
He graduates in 1990 and moves to Washington, D.C., where he starts working for a political publication of some sort, but eventually lands an internship at the New Republic.
This is like a right-wing paper, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Also, journalism is like, it's almost like any kind of like art type of degree where it's like there's only so many places where you can make good money doing journalism, and you kind of got to sell out to get there.
For sure. I mean? Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's some foreshadowing.
Because I feel like I recognize this guy's name. So I feel like I'm going to know this story when we get there.
Probably.
Keep going.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, so the New Republic.
Yes.
Marty Perez purchased the magazine in 1974 and worked as editor-in-chief until 2010. And he was known for making inflammatory statements about minorities, including references to the supposed cultural and characteristic deficiencies of Black people and of Latin society. That's a quote.
Yeah. Okay.
Perez had a record of slandering Muslims and Islam in 2010, going as far as calling Muslims' life cheap, and suggested that people who follow Islam should be deprived of their First Amendment rights.
This guy's a fucking gem.
He later apologized for that, Naomi.
It's fine then.
Soup,
it's
sorry.
Totally
Soup, sorry.
Oh
my bad. So this is where Stephen's working, and he wants to be the very best at the New Republic. After a year, he's promoted to assistant editor, but he hasn't had much of an opportunity to actually write his own piece. Like, his main role as assistant editor is fact-checking.
Right.
And he's known as being like a really intense fact checker.
Which, at the New Republic is really saying something.
Yeah, I don't know if that position didn't exist before, because some of these other things that made it through the...
Seriously.
Oh.
Everybody in the office is like, no, it's cool, Stephen. Just calm down. It's fine. You're working too hard.
Yeah. You just stamp the approval and move on.
Don't kill yourself here, man.
No. Yeah.
My God.
So he is good friends with another woman that was hired as an intern named Hannah Rosen. Stephen and Hannah, they were hired at the same time as interns, and so they like instantly bonded.
Right.
And Hannah says that Stephen always needed to know like all of the office gossip. This guy's personality sounds real weird.
I mean, who doesn't love a bunch of hot goss? You know what I'm saying? Like,
sure.
And also, I don't think of that as weird in somebody who's like a journalist. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I mean, in a lot of ways, like, journalism is chasing gossip.
For sure.
In a way, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do.
Like, I'm not to belittle like journalism, because there's a lot of like legit investigative journalism, and you're digging for answers and truth. But like, that's kind of what that's kind of like what figuring out the gossip is too. Because just because you hear the gossip, you still want to know, like, well, is that real? Is that true? You're asking around to get to the truth of the thing, right?
It's basically what we're doing.
100%.
100%. Yeah.
We're gossipers and journalists.
Yeah. Yes, something in between. Something in between that is what we are.
And occasional FBI profilers.
And sometimes psychologists.
Right.
We're the Jane of all trades. Okay, so he's into the gossip.
Moving on. He's into the gossip.
He's into the gossip. And he was always afraid that people were mad at him. And he had like this extreme people-pleasing quality that made some people uncomfortable.
Yeah, there's a line to that. And once you go over too far over that line, it's uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Yes.
I guess I haven't encountered that.
It's because you're a people pleaser.
Maybe I am that. That's oh my God. Wow.
Is this like a revelation?
I'm learning so much about myself today. This is not what we were supposed to be doing. Oh,
Armchair psychologist.
I
here.
know. I got to keep
doing my part
on that. I don't want to make people uncomfy. That's not the goal.
No.
God. Okay, so Marty Perez, the super cool guy, approaches his staff one day for an idea on a feature story. He said, there are fewer and fewer Black taxi drivers in DC, and he believes this implies something about certain racial and ethnic groups. So he wants one of his journalists to investigate this.
You want someone to get to the bottom of it. Where are the Black taxi drivers going? And who's taking over? I bet you it's those illegal immigrants, Amber.
I bet it is.
Bet it is.
Always
taking
is.
our jobs.
That's
They're
right.
taking our jobs.
Oh my God. So Stephen is 28 years old at the time, and he's already disappointed his parents by dropping out of med school. He's annoying in the office. He isn't really.
He says, "Put me in, coach."
Yeah, he's like, this is my moment. This is my time to shine. He wants that feature piece. He's like, I'm going to get to the bottom of this cab driver situation because I don't know what issue this is going to resolve when he finds out whatever.
And also, is this just like Marty just anecdotally deciding that he's seeing less Black cab drivers, so it must be a thing?
Probably. Like on my way into work, I was staring into cabs and something looked off.
That's what I'm saying. It's not like there was actually already an article written about it or anything. This is literally just like his astute observation.
That's right. This is a ground
of Washington, D.C. Yes. Okay.
He needs to be first on the case.
Right.
So Stephen spends months working on this piece. He attends a taxi school class. He did a ride.
What does a yellow light mean?
Slow down, Jim.
Look, if you're not old enough to have been forced to watch reruns of Taxi most nights, okay, I'm just saying, you missed out. You missed out.
You really did. Oh my God. Oh, who was the one actor that I don't know what they were trying to portray. I guess a split personality or something. And he would go back and forth from like suave to having like a heavy, maybe.
That's Andy Kaufman.
Yes. What was the vibe with his character? Like
Latka?
Yes.
Latka.
Yeah.
He was supposed to be like an immigrant. He was a mechanic at the
bus barn
garage,
for cabs.
The barn, the cab barn or whatever. And I know at some point he had like a split personality, and the other personality was like, yeah, this suave, like American guy.
Yeah.
Like, but like his wife, I can't remember her name was.
Mm-hmm.
She's played by that. Oh, I love that actress with the curly hair.
No, me too.
God, what the fuck is her name? I can't remember. Anyway, she hated that guy.
Yes.
Because he was like creepy and like gropey, like Pepe Le Pew or something.
Yes.
Yeah, like, yeah.
God, that's so funny. Okay.
Anyway.
Okay, so
he went to this taxi school.
He went to the taxi. He does a ride along with a limo driver. He met.
I'm sorry. What does a limo driver have to do with the taxis?
He's trying to get the scoop on what it's like to be a driver, I guess.
Okay.
And then he met a driver from Korea named Kay Bang. Kay is known in the taxi driving community because he used his martial arts skills to fight off a group of Black teenagers who were attempting to rob him. So Stephen writes all about this in his piece. And his piece becomes the cover story in August of 1996. But none of those things actually happened. So.
Wait a minute. Does Oprah make an appearance in this story?
I don't think so. Should she?
Oh, okay, then I'm thinking of somebody else. Keep going.
Oh, there was that guy that claimed to write a memoir.
Yes, and he was a writer for the New York Times.
James Frey.
Thank you.
And she chastised him
after she promoted the fuck out of him. Right. Which she does a lot of that, but she typically doesn't correct later down the road. She just turns them into famous grifters like Dr. Oz and Dr. Phil.
Famous grifters. Bye. Okay. Fuck. Okay. By January of 1997, Stephen had done another feature article about the Center for Science and Public Interest. So the Center for Science and Public Interest, otherwise known as CSPI, is a nonprofit organization that advocates for health and nutrition and focuses on food safety, and it's based in Washington, D.C.
Okay.
They are supported by individual donors, foundation grants, and subscribers to their health newsletter, The Nutrition Action.
Okay.
So they got a lot of traction, and they get national attention in the 90s with the height of like the diet culture craze.
Mm-hmm.
So the New Republic sees this organization as a bunch of liberals trying to police other people's eating habits. And so Stephen does his story from this angle, which is what, Marty Perez wants.
Right.
And he puts in this article a story about the center's president going out for Chinese food. And he's basically acting like a total fucking douche at the restaurant, like demanding to know every ingredient that went into the food that he's about to order, and then like picking off the breading and just being a dick, right?
Oh, is this like right near the Atkins craze?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh.
So Stephen does this story, but none of this happened.
So wait a minute. Is Stephen pretending to be out investigating while he's just writing up stories like a fiction writer?
Yes.
But he supposedly wants to be a journalist.
Yes. Yes. Uh-huh.
Okay.
Yep. So this organization sends a letter to the editor-in-chief at the New Republic calling Stephen out. And they said that not only did he not use facts, but he also plagiarized from other articles.
Even better.
Oh, God. Yeah.
Love a good plagiarizer.
I mean, he was too lazy just to swap a few words around.
Right?
Yeah. But the editor-in-chief stands by Stephen and even calls the center president like a liar. Liar, liar, pants on fire. Because he's like the golden boy at this point.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
He's the best fact checker they have.
Oh, yeah. Uh-huh.
He's the only good fact checker they've ever had.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. So by spring of 97, editor-in-chief Michael is responding to another letter sent in questioning Stephen's journalistic integrity. And this letter is from a group of young Republican men.
Uh-oh. This is their target audience.
These are their subscribers.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Stephen claimed to have followed them around at a conference earlier in the year and said that the men were drinking and doing drugs and were on the prowl for the ugliest and loneliest woman they could find.
I mean, I bet you that's true.
That's soups probs true, but pick or it didn't happen, you know?
I mean, it sounds like it's probably true.
Probably. But in this letter, they call Stephen a fiction writer and not a reporter. One of the things that Stephen wrote in this article was a description of the men's hotel room with empty mini bottles of liquor scattered all over the floor after they drank everything out of the minibar. Like he's like saying like he was like what, undercover and pretending to be part of their club? I don't know. But this particular hotel doesn't have in-room minibars.
Well, who's staying at that hotel then? Like, what are we doing? Why would you even go to that hotel?
I don't know.
That doesn't sound, none of this story is adding up for me.
But again, the editor-in-chief isn't worried about this because he trusts the fact-checking process.
Absolutely.
At New Republic. And Stephen has meticulous notes about his facts. He has names and phone numbers for all of his sources. He says that the hotel doesn't have mini bars, but they allow guests to rent mini fridges. So the editor-in-chief calls the hotel and confirms this and decides like, oh, okay, like I can see where that little mix-up was, but same. They rented their own, whatever. So over the next year, Stephen's career as a journalist rises to national recognition. He writes articles for Rolling Stone and Harper's. And in September of 1997, the editor-in-chief gets fired after a disagreement with Marty Perez.
Okay.
So, in May of 98, Adam Penningberg is a writer for Forbes online magazine, which at the time was called Digital Tool.
Well, it also was 98. It was like brand fucking new, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So his job is to cover, the new internet. And he's tasked with basically his boss was like, why is this Steven guy getting on these stories before you? And why aren't you first on the scene? What's going on? Right.
Yeah. Why are you sucking so hard?
Yeah. Look at what Steven's doing. Be like Steven.
Be like Steven.
So he comes across Steven's newest article from the New Republic that is about a 15-year-old computer hacker named Ian Restill.
Mm-hmm.
Here is a quote from Steven's article.
Oh, I can't wait.
Ian Restill, a 15-year-old computer hacker who looks like an even more adolescent version of Bill Gates, is throwing a tantrum. I want more money. I want a Miata. I want a Disney World trip. I want X-Men comic books. I want a lifetime subscription to Playboy and throw in a penthouse. Show me the money.
Show me the money?
Mm-hmm. Steven's article claims that Ian's hacker name is Big Bad Bionic Boy and that he hacked into the Jukes Micronics website and posted the salaries of every executive along with photos of naked women. The piece ends with Steven claiming that he attended a hackers conference and that everyone applauded and cheered for the Big Bad Bionic Boy.
I don't even have words right now. What? Okay.
So Adam comes across this and he's like, something don't seem right here.
Something isn't right.
So he starts by looking up this Juked Micronics, this software company, and it has no website.
Okay.
A software company with no website.
Right. I mean, even in 1998, if you're a software company, you're, yeah.
And the company isn't listed anywhere. They aren't in the phone book. He even contacts the IRS. There's no such company.
So the company doesn't even exist.
No.
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 Okay.
No. So then he looks into other details from this story, like how several different police jurisdictions worked together to take down this 15-year-old hacker.
Which they can't even do that in 2024.
No.
So they're definitely not capable of doing that in 1998.
That should have been your first clue that this was false. Police working together. Lies.
To take down something that happened on the internet involving hackers?
Yeah, they don't even know what that is.
No.
Mm-mm.
No.
Mm-hmm. So Adam again finds nothing. There's no police report. There's no takedown. So he goes to his editor and tells him there is something really wrong with this story.
Something isn't right.
Mm-hmm. So the editor of Forbes and Adam together decide to get in contact with Steven.
So now the story is actually Steven, not the stories that Steven's publishing.
Right. It's art imitating life. So Forbes people calls the New Republic and they speak with the new editor-in-chief, Charles. And Charles
Charles is in charge?
Charles is in charge and Charles isn't fucking around. Charles is not fucking around. He confronts Steven and Steven tried to guilt trip him into not backing his journalist like his former editor did, but Charles doesn't feel good about this call from Forbes. So
it's fucking Forbes.
I know. Mm-hmm.
It's not like some random high school newspaper editor. It's fucking Forbes.
I know, right? No shit.
Yes.
And then after this conversation with Steven, Charles gets a weird call at home from someone claiming to be the president of Juked Micronics.
Oh my God, Steven, stop.
Mm-hmm. And he just says he has no further comments on Steven's story and hangs up.
Okay.
So the next day, Charles brings Steven into his office to join him on a conference call with Adam and the editor at Forbes. And on this call, Adam tells them that he is going to publish his own story about the unverifiable facts in Steven's hacker story. He tells Steven that he will give him a chance to set the record straight first So Adam goes right into the questions for Stephen, like, why can't I get a hold of any of these people who claim to be your sources? And Stephen's like, I don't know. They always answer for me. Then Adam tells him when he first started looking into this, there was no website for juked I don't even know how to say Micronics.
Micronics.
Okay.
Yeah, you got it.
God.
You're doing great.
Words are
Keep
hard.
going, sis. I know.
There's no website, but now all of a sudden there's like a real shitty website up and running for this place.
Okay.
Then Adam's editor at Forbes throws Stephen a bone and says, maybe you got duped by a fake source. And Stephen right away is like, yep, that's exactly what happened. That's what happened.
There it is.
We've all been tricked here. We've all been tricked.
Okay.
Oh, God. So the Forbes guys agree not to publish an article about Stephen being shit. But Charles is not liking the vibe from Stephen. And he wants to keep looking into this, right?
Mm-hmm.
So Charles asks Stephen to drive him to every location that he mentioned in his article. Show me the hotel where the conference was held. Show me the restaurant where Ian and these people were meeting when Ian was making his demands, right?
Right.
So they go to this hotel in Maryland where the conference happened, and Stephen is pointing out the locations of where everyone was sitting, and he's adding all these unnecessary details, but Charles isn't buying it.
Mm-hmm.
The building next door is an office where apparently this hackers conference happened, where everybody was like, all hail the Bionic Boy or whatever. But this building is like tiny that would never fit a conference.
Right.
And Charles talks to the manager of this building, and the manager tells him there has never been a conference here and that the building was closed on the day that this conference allegedly took place.
Mm-hmm.
And Stephen doesn't have an explanation for this. He just keeps saying that he knows that this is where it was, and he was there and he saw it.
And you were there, and you were there, and you were there.
Stephen, was this a dream, honey? Were you dreaming? My God.
It's no place like
Oh
home.
my God. No shit.
Just needs to click his heels together and it'll all go away.
Oh my God. So at this point, Charles has had enough. And he just asks Stephen, did you make all this up? And eventually Stephen admits that he didn't actually go to the conference, but the conference did happen. Because
Sorry.
this guy just,
I can't.
he wants to dig out a tiny bit and then rebury himself.
You know, it's like that scene in Back to the Future when everybody stops dancing and just stares at Marty because he's so out of control on stage.
Yeah.
They can't even dance anymore. It's like, and I get that like secondhand embarrassment.
The tingles.
Yes, I hate it so much. I have secondhand embarrassment for Stephen right now. I'm so uncomfortable.
I am too. It's the tingles. Ugh.
I can't.
All right. We're almost done. We're almost done with the tingles. He's like, you know what? You're right. I didn't go to the conference, but it happened. And I have a trusted source who was there. So they head back to the office. And while they're in the car, Stephen starts sobbing. And then he pulls over and tells Charles that he has just had too much pressure to succeed. Okay. So by this time, Stephen has written over 40 pieces for the New Republic, and Charles has no idea if any of them are correct.
Answer: none of them are correct.
Right.
They're all made up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So back at the office, Charles reads through Stephen's most recent piece about a convention where people sold Monica Lewinsky themed memorabilia. In this story, Stephen claims that there were $80 million worth of items sold. He said that at this convention, there was a vendor selling monocondoms.
Okay. This is 98?
Yeah.
Okay. We would have all heard about that.
Mm-hmm.
That would have been reported on by every mainstream news outlet.
For sure.
Monica Lewinsky was the story of the fucking year. Nobody ever skipped a chance to talk about that woman.
That poor woman. I know.
Oh my God. But you know what I'm saying? $80 million in merchandise sold. Like, no one would have missed that.
Totally.
That would have been plastered on every fucking newsstand.
Agreed. And if you're going to, well, first off, I'm not advocating to lie as a journalist, but don't go so over the top.
Right?
Like, sprinkle in some, like, he's doing it wrong.
He's doing it so
wrong. Outlandish.
It's so ridiculous.
God. Okay. So, yeah. So Charles starts making some calls and he can't verify any of Stephen's details in this story. And so,
well, because their fact checker is busy now.
Right. That's right.
No one else in that whole paper is fact checking anything.
There's no leader here. Although Charles is stepping up.
He's in charge.
That's of our days and our lives.
This story is so ridiculous.
It's so fucking ridiculous. Oh, God. Okay, so he suspends Stephen while he continues to investigate. And he learns that the call that came to his home of the person claiming to be the president of Juked Micronics is traced back to Stephen's younger brother, Michael.
Michael, what are you doing?
It's the least he can do after walking around all cute. He's basically the reason is Stephen's in this spot.
You owe me this, brother. You owe me this.
Yeah. You already got most likely to succeed. Just pretend like you're the president of Juked.
Just do this one solid for me.
Okay, so then Charles goes into the office on a Saturday one day to pick something up, and he finds Stephen is in there at his computer, presumably deleting evidence.
Oh my God.
And he confronts Stephen. He tells him about this phone call and asks him if that was actually his brother calling him, and Stephen says no. And Charles tells Stephen that he is suspended and he needs to leave the office right now.
Bye.
And Stephen asks if he can just bring his hard drive home with him. Yeah.
Also, Stephen's not that smart because we've already learned in another chaos or another episode when I covered Carolyn, the woman that I almost worked with at Morgan Stanley, that you can delete anything you want from the hard drive. It doesn't actually go anywhere.
That's right. It just goes into some other magical place on the hard drive.
Well, it basically just gets marked as like rewritable. Mm-hmm. So like later when you save data, it'll save over it. It'll write over it. But if you're just deleting it and you're not saving anything, it's still sitting there.
That's right. That's right. So he's like, let me take this home. And Charles is like, no, we're not doing that. And you need to leave the office. So Stephen leaves, but he comes back 15 minutes later and says, okay, yeah, that call was my brother, but Juked Micronics, it does exist. I just can't get a hold of them anymore. And he's just under too much pressure. And Charles is like, I've had enough and you're fired.
No shit. Mm-hmm.
So the following day, Charles puts out a press release that says Stephen has been fired and, quote, Stephen's stories contain fabricated characters and situations.
Then translation, he wrote fiction stories and called them news.
That's right. That's right. Then Forbes publishes their piece about Stephen's hacker story. And over the next month, every journalist at the New Republic is assigned with the task of going over every single piece that Stephen ever did and fact-checking everything.
Oh my God.
Not making friends with his former colleagues.
Can you imagine?
No!
Everybody just sitting and
like this fucking guy.
Exactly.
Yeah. God damn it.
I mean, they already didn't look good because they're in the New Republic, for God's sake.
I know. In June of 98, the New Republic adds an editorial note that says that 6 of the 41 articles were entirely made up. 27 of them contained some kind of fabrication. So that was what their findings were.
Wow.
Stephen went on to law school and applied for the New York State Bar. Then he published a novel about his own downfall. He sent out 100 letters of apology to his former friends and coworkers. The book flopped, and the apology letters were pretty insincere.
Mm-hmm. So they flopped too.
Everything flopped in Stephen's world. Yeah.
Like a floppy disk.
Exactly like a floppy disk.
That you can't delete.
That's right. Oh my God. Ba-dum-bum.
So good.
In the fall of 2003, the movie Shattered Glass was released, basically called...
I've heard of that.
Basically calling bullshit on Stephen's version of what happened.
Mm-hmm.
Hayden Christensen played Stephen. Peter Sarsgaard played Charles, and Steve Zahn played Adam. After the movie was out, Stephen withdrew his application to the New York bar, assuming that the movie had ruined any chance of his acceptance. He then moved to Venice Beach, California, and in 2007 applied for the California bar, where he was rejected.
I thought you were going to tell me he like opened up a surf shop.
Stop it. He should.
That's what I'm saying.
No,
Just go.
He opened up.
Just go ride the waves, man. Yeah. Like just.
Mm-hmm. It's too late to make your parents proud. That ship has sailed.
Bye.
We're way beyond that.
Just stop being a douchebag.
God. No, apparently he works as a paralegal for a personal injury law firm.
Oh my God, that's perfect.
Ambulance chasers.
Yes.
Yep. And that is Stephen Glass.
Holy shit, sister.
What are we doing?
That was amazing. I loved everything about that except for the part where I was so uncomfortable.
I know, the tingles. That's what that's called.
I can't.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, man.
Oh, what a ride.
Wow is right.
Mm-hmm.
Whenever we cover a story like this where somebody is just digging and digging and digging on, it's like Tanya Head.
Yes.
Right? Like at some point, this house of cards is going to crash and burn. Like what? Like where? I don't understand how someone even gets there. I just can't even.
Yeah.
I can't even.
I wish that I could. I'm not enough of a psychologist to understand that pathology of like desperately needing attention or needing to feel important but then it's like your attention and your importance is based off of lies. Like it's got to feel like not.
That are eventually going to catch up to you.
Yeah. Like, do you feel super good for getting an A on a test that you cheated on?
Right.
Like the whole feel good is like you earned that.
Accomplishment.
Yeah.
Yes.
I don't understand.
And I also don't understand wanting to live in such a way where you're constantly like on the edge of your seat of somebody finding you out.
Yes.
That part.
Oh my God. Yes. Having to keep your story straight and. Mm-hmm.
Right. And like constantly lying to people's faces all the fucking time.
Oh, I know. That sounds stressful.
I can't. So stressful. Mm-hmm. Like I was stressed for him. Like what? Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Sister, that was amazing. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And we did it.
Mm-hmm.
We made it through. Hey, you guys, we actually do this. We do an extra one of these every month, and it's over on our Patreon. If you become a Chaos Kids Club member, you can listen to those when they drop every month. In fact, the 15th of every month, typically, if we're on top of our shit, there it is. And you also get the new episodes drop a day early over there. And every time we get 10 more new subscribers to our Patreon, we schedule a virtual wine night. We hang out.
That's right.
So go be a part of that. It's $5 a month. Although you can just join the Patreon as a free member and you get to see everything we push over there that is not behind the paywall as well.
That's right.
Stay up to date. You can talk to us over there. So do that.
Do that.
If you want. If you want. If you want to.
That's right.
If you want to.
Patreon.com/Crime, Wine, and Chaos.
That's right.
That's right. We also have a webpage, crimewineandchaos.com. We also have an email, crimewineandchaos@gmail.com. You can send us a message. We'll answer you.
And be like
Peyton.
Peyton, thank you. I knew it started with a P. I was like, pep, pep, pep. Be like Peyton. Go give us a review on the Apple Podcast because you can typey a whole thing over there. So That's nice.
That is nice.
We love that when that happens. Amber literally screen grabs it and sends it to me.
I do.
We got a new review.
Yay, it makes our day.
It does. It totally makes our day. Sister, that was
so chaotic.
Oh my God.
Bye.
Bye.
Crime, Wine, and Chaos is produced by 8th Direction Records. Artwork by Joshua M. Davis. Music by Paul Abner. If you would like to support the show, you can visit our Patreon page at crimewineandchaos.com/Patreon. Cheers.
I just spit on my mic.
Good for you. Good for you. Oh, just wipey. Okay, do you want to know something real fucking nasty?
I don't know. Do I?